Impact. I am the Science and Education host, Barbara Brabetz. We have return guests with us today for another go-around with me. Susanne Dorr and Elizabeth Hoffman are here from my side, formerly the Schenectady Museum.
Thank you for having us, Barbara.
Well, since I have double duties here, I'll introduce you first, Susanne. Susanne, you are the development coordinator at the museum?
Yes, that's correct.
And I understand that you're local, that you born and bred in Amsterdam, New York?
I am. I was born in Amsterdam. My parents were living there at the time, and we moved to the Rotterdam area shortly thereafter.
So you've decided to make this place your home. That's great, as many of us here have. Elizabeth Hoffman.
Yes.
You are the educational specialist at the museum?
I am.
And you come from the North Country?
I do.
Where exactly?
From Whitehall.
All right, and you're still up there now, and you make the commute down to Schenectady?
Glens Falls area.
Yes, that's terrific. So, I read in the paper, I see on the TV, I hear in the news that the Schenectady Museum is not the Schenectady Museum anymore. What do we call it? My Sci, very cute, I love it, perfect for this segment. So, the Museum of Innovation and Science. Certainly a great place, Schenectady, to have it headquartered, since it is a hub of innovation and science 100 years ago and today as well. So we have the great history of this area with General Electric, with Knowles Atomic Power Laboratory, with many small startup companies that continue to do well in the area, and it kind of lends itself well to a rebranding of the museum. Can you tell us how that came about? Let's see. Susanne, I get to pick.
Surely, yes. The museum staff and board of trustees formed a committee to examine a name change and to craft a new vision and mission for the museum. The museum's mission is a rework or tweak, if you will, of our former mission to celebrate, explore, and inspire science and technology, past, present, and future. The name My Sci was one that was vetted through a survey and stakeholder process. It is meant to convey a personalization of science, that is my sci, my science, and is to engage all visitors to the museum, from our preschool children to adults.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about the offerings that you have for your clientele as we enter into fall and winter. And I know that there's a lot out there that we can do. So, Susanne, can we talk about what you have in front of you?
We certainly can. The museum opened on August 17th an audio tour focused on the Erie Canal. We call it our Erie Canalway audio tour. It's a cell phone tour. It is a walking tour, a 1.2-mile loop along Erie Boulevard. 14 businesses in that area have generously agreed to host our decals. And as you walk up to the storefront and point your cell phone at the QR code on the decal, and you get information about the Erie Canal. Or if you don't have a point cell phone that'll read the QR code, there's a number for you to dial. The focus of the tour is the technological innovation of the Erie Canal and its social and economic impact on the immediate area and the surrounding area of Schenectady. The cell phone tour was generously funded through a grant from the Erie Canal National Heritage Corridor, and we are extremely fortunate to have the businesses in the area host our decals and be partners with us. Tour content includes information on Steinmetz and his alligator, on the canal in winter, the Port of Schenectady, and various other topics of great interest for canal aficionados and people who are just simply interested in learning about the canal.
Well, we live around the canal, around in this area. We know it's a big deal, but it's kind of just there, right? And I think it's kind of appropriate that we talk about it on this show. The show is about the local things we do here in the capital area and what a global impact it has. And the Erie Canal could be the poster child for that. If it weren't for the Erie Canal, the industrialization of the Midwest, access to the Great Lakes, none of that would have happened. It essentially started Western expansion, and I didn't have a fine appreciation of that when I was a child singing that song in music class. And it's fascinating to think you could have visitors from Europe or Asia that come who could use this. You could have the guy down the street who's always lived there who's like, what's that? What do I do with that QR code? And they're like, really? That's what's in my backyard. Well, it really is in our backyard. That's a wonderful idea.
And to find out more about the audio tour, brochures are available in the visitor center of Proctors, at the museum, and at various locations around the city, the Chambers of Commerce. Union College will be hosting some of our brochures. As a matter of fact, our archivist, Chris Hunter, worked with several students from the Union College Museum Studies program, and they assisted in the development of this with identifying and developing tour content. So we're an example of another partnership that the museum has.
And taking a step outside of the museum too. The museum is everywhere around us, if you think of it. You're coordinating all of this material that is so wondrous and scientifically oriented and a piece of history, and as an education guru, you're probably just salivating at the opportunities that are out there for formal education and informal education as well. So tell me more about the Horizon, Suzanne. You had said you wanted to mention another partnership coming up.
Yes, the museum has a partnership with the Challenger Learning Center. The Challenger Learning Center will be co-located at the museum. Their program is a NASA-based, space-themed program that will bring science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to students in target grades of 5 through 8, but will also blend in important 21st century skills, such as communication and teamwork. The students, after spending 2 months studying the curriculum and doing activities in the classroom, will come to the museum and experience a simulated space mission. Say that 5 times really fast.
Oh, I don't dare. So when does this initiative start? How would a teacher who hears this, who's thinking about their curriculum this year, how would they go ahead to grab hold of this and offer it to the students in their classes?
Booking for the Challenger Learning Center is handled right now through Norm Miller, who is the executive director of the CLC, and they will be booked through Mr. Miller. I've been told that we're anticipating an opening early next year, perhaps January, February.
So it's coming soon.
It's coming soon.
Yes.
Construction has not quite begun on this yet at the museum, but I can assure you that construction on the Exploratorium exhibit that we're getting is already well underway.
Well, let's go back to the Exploratorium for a second. What are the dates that the Exploratorium will be available to the people in the area?
May I?
Yes.
Okay. The exhibit opens to the public on Saturday, October 6th, and it will run through mid-June. At that time, the exhibit will be dismantled and a new exhibit will be brought in.
Well, that's the bulk of the school year, the upcoming school year.
It is.
So we really have an opportunity for a lot of the science teachers out there watching to make a connection with you and to contact Elizabeth. We'll put your contact information on the screen, but as an educational specialist, you have packages to offer to teachers that coincide with what's going on at my side. Could you talk a little bit about that, Elizabeth?
Yes. Well, when a teacher calls to book a visit, or even a group like the YMCA,
Girl Scouts.
Yes, yes. There's many choices and options. They can self-guide through the exhibits. And one of the great ones that we're going to have is AXNet. They can also book a hands-on exploration program, which allows them to do a hands-on program in our classroom with an educator that actually complements one of our exhibits. And we have special ones coming up to complement the seeing exhibit that's coming. But we also have a number of other programs available as well. And you can visit our website, and we have our new school brochure online now, which lists all those programs.
You want to mention the main website where they could go and click onto the education programs?
Yes, it's www.mysci.org.
mysci.org.
Yes,
great.
we are changed to MySci.
That's good. So you had said besides the Exploratorium and the eye exhibit, you have other teacher materials that are available. Could you just give us a taste?
Well, I do want to mention one of the it's kind of the heart of the museum is the planetarium as well. And we have great school programs that take place in the planetarium. So, and many of our teachers, that's what they do come for, and they enjoy every year with their new classes every year. So, that's one of the hearts of the museum. So, and it's featured in our school brochure as well. And then coming up to complement the extant exhibit that's coming. On October 11th, we have our teacher open house. It's from 5 to 7, and the teachers will get to preview this exhibit. We do open on the 6th, but this will be one of the first times that they can come and see the exhibit and get a little idea of what they could bring their students to. Also, in November, we will have a teacher workshop, which will be from 5 to 8. And that will focus on optical illusions and how the eye works, and bringing lesson plans to your classroom, but also then possibly coming to the museum in visiting the exhibit, or if that's not a possibility for the class, they can also book an outreach program, which we take many of our hands-on exploration programs on the road to the classroom as well.
That's great. So,
Yes.
so if the budget is tight and there's no bus money for a field trip, there are still options available to teachers that are out there. They would need to contact you and your colleagues at the museum to get more information of how to do that.
Yes.
That's terrific.
You know, Barbara, we've been talking a lot about school children, and our connections with our local schools schools in the region are extremely important. But I also want to mention that in addition to the regular, what we consider our regular offerings, day in and day out at the museum, there are going to be some special programs offered for families. One is Zoom into Science, and Beth is very involved in planning for Zoom into Science, and that will be on November 3rd. And that is a day of hands-on science activities for youth and their families. It's an opportunity for parents and their children to become engaged at the same time in exploring a scientific concept or principle.
It's a great time of year, too. It's so dreary out in early November. It's not quite Christmas season. They're all high on that Halloween candy. Take them to the museum. Have a great time. Learn something yourself. Just generally do something that doesn't involve a television. That's great.
I'm sorry.
I was going to mention that the great thing about Zoom also is that we bring a lot of collaborative groups in, so they're also, having tables and doing activities as well. So we involve a lot of people from other groups from the community in that program.
We're also resurrecting our lecture series. The museum had a strong lecture series in 2008 and 2009, and we've already had one lecture this year given by Dr. Walt Robb, and that was on alternative energy. Some people will remember Dr. Robb as being associated with General Electric Company. In October, we will be hosting Dr. Michael Gruenthal of the Wadsworth Center at Albany Med, and his wife, Dr. Laura Schweitzer of Union Graduate College, who will be giving a lecture on the brain. And later on in October, on the 25th, we will be doing a program right here at Proctors in the GE Theater, and that will be entitled Found Sound.
So are they always on a certain night of the week?
No.
You kind of move them around,
We
so
do.
depending on people's schedules, they
Yes.
have an opportunity to attend these lectures.
Yes.
And again, these lectures could be for very intellectually curious children, but of course an adult audience is welcome and what you would expect.
I'd say they're probably more geared towards an adult audience, college students, high school students perhaps. It gives you an idea of our preschool to adult variety in terms of offerings.
Now, when you were mentioning that there are other groups besides school children, and of course we talked about the family offerings in early November, a thought occurred to me about homeschooling. And homeschooling is so tough for parents to offer them the lab science experiments that are out there. They just don't have that capacity at home. The museum, given its lab room and also the changing nature of the exhibits, is a wonderful tie-in with showing science to students who are homeschooled. So I think your point is taken, that it's not just the school children on the yellow bus that will be coming to the museum.
No, it's not. And actually, I know that we have a number of members that are homeschool families that come, and they take part in our lab, which is, you know, Thursday and Friday, so that is a weekday, or on the weekends. So it is a great opportunity for be able to take part in that.
So Suzanne, we have different ways that, of course, people can join the museum. We have different ways that they could pay for admission to the museum. Would you like to just mention some of the variety? I'm thinking of, like, you know, the season pass versus the one-shot deal. How much is the affordability of the museum for the average family?
No, we consider the museum admission and membership affordable. It's certainly well within the range of other entertainment offerings in the area and educational offerings in the area. People may come to the museum and purchase an admission for that day. We have several membership options available for families, for grandparents, for individuals, and on the first Sunday of every month, the museum hosts Power Hour, which is free admission to individuals, and those folks that come in during that first hour may stay for the rest of the day and engage and enjoy and be stimulated by the museum's exhibits and programs.
That's a terrific offering. I also read that there's a way at the Schenectady Library to take out a membership, or not a membership, I'm sorry, an admission to the museum, the way you would take out a book or a movie or a DVD.
Yes.
So just like a book, I mean, you go and you take it out on your library card and you go use it and you return it. Again, a wonderful option to introduce someone to the museum, and hopefully they are bitten by the museum bug, as I have, and consider it kind of an interview, if you will, between individual and the museum, and then come back more and more.
Yes.
So what do we have coming up inside, perhaps, in the holiday season?
Well, during the holiday season, we have our special planetarium show called 'Tis the Season, and that'll open mid-November. And that will stay open until January, the beginning of January. And that's a wonderful, wonderful planetarium show, and it spotlights many of the cultures and how they've looked at the stars over the years and how they relate to many of the holidays that take place at this time of the year, including the winter solstice. Also, we have our annual train exhibit, which is a love of many of the visitors, and that opens in December, and that is through the Upstate Train Associates.
So what happens is they kind of commandeer a portion of your museum if everything's pushed to the walls, and this diorama is just huge. Somehow they bring it in on trucks and they lay it all out. There's hundreds of trains that are just going through the exhibit. You can spend hours watching them.
Yes, and the people involved in the associate, they come and they have them running, and they talk to the public and the kids, and they get them really excited about trains, and they have lots of different little parts of the exhibit to take quite a while to look at and examine to see what they have, you know, as part of their display.
Wonderful. I wanted to highlight one other partnership that you've got going on, Suzanne, and that is with Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute.
Yes, we have a partnership with Rensselaer School of Architecture. We are working with Dean Evan Douglas and Gustavo Krenbill of the school, and the architecture students will be working on a design for a new entrance for the museum. The museum would like to have a more prominent presence on Knott Terrace, and with a prominent presence, we would form somewhat of an educational triangle between Union College, Union Graduate School, and the museum. And our entrance would overlook the city and contribute to the renaissance of the city of Schenectady.
It certainly is on the uptick, and MySci and its name change is right along with it. So I want to thank you, formerly Schenectady Museum employees, to now the Museum of Innovation and Science, founded here in Schenectady. I want to thank you for coming in for another chat with us. And any last parting remarks before we tie it up?
come visit us on October 6th when we open our new exhibit.
Perfect. The new eye exhibit.
Yes.
From the
Seeing.
Seeing is its name. How appropriate. Well, you should see what's going on at MySci. Your website, please.
www.mysci.org.
Great. Thanks for coming in, Elizabeth and Suzanne. It's been wonderful to have you here. You've been watching the Science and Education segment here on Impact. I'm Barbara Brabetz. Thanks for watching.
Proctors, bringing the best in arts, education, and entertainment.